Okay, this is Tim again, and this time I'm going to read, I think it's chapter 5 on winning, and this is it here. I have a picture of the chapter there. So, the night before I began training Kobe Bryant in 2007, I was sitting in a little restaurant near my hotel in Newport Coast, and Kobe walked in for a takeout sushi. I didn't know him well at the point. We talked on the phone numerous times after Michael told him to hire me and had crossed paths a few times over the years, but we never really spent any time together. That was about to change dramatically. Over the years, numerous players had asked MJ if they could use me to train them during the season, and always got his standard response: I don't pay him to train me, I pay him not to train anyone else. But at this point, we were already retired, and he genuinely wanted to see Kobe play at the highest level for as long as he could. I've seen and heard all the comparisons between the two, none of my own homework, and was ready to find out for myself how similar or different they actually were. The first major difference I noticed Kobe Bryant was able to walk into a sushi restaurant at dinner time and not one person ran over to him for pictures or autographs. I'm not saying that to be critical or disrespectful, just being factual. Michael could never have done that, ever. And I spent so many years around him. I'd come to expect that every superstar was treated the same. Our work together began the year next year at UCI Ivy. Kobe was quite reserved, totally focused. We talked about his knee issues, some other things he wanted to work on, and one thing that he been on his mind for a long time. He wanted to learn everything he could about MJ, the program, the schedule, the workouts, the whole routine. He wanted to know about Michael's lifestyle and how he reacted to certain situations, how he handled teammates and coaches, and anything else Kobe could add to his arsenal of weapons. He wanted knowledge, not so he could become MJ, so he could become a better Kobe. Most players who have asked me about MJ over the years are looking for ways to copy his mentally in his game, which can't be done. I can list all the traits and habits and philosophies that made him great, but the secret in how they're put together and that unique is every individual. You can take every ingredient in Coca Cola individually. You can take every ingredient in Coca Cola, they're listed on the can, and combine them in a thousand different ways, but you'll never be able to replicate Coca Cola because it's not about the ingredients, it's about the formula for combining those ingredients. When you're iconic, you could never be duplicated. Kobe understood that. He wanted to learn so he could implement certain things that could work for him and continue to elevate his own game. Because when you're already that good, there aren't many people who can show you how to get better. I'm often asked about the difference and similarities between the two. I don't like to compare because to me they're so different and unique, and it's an injustice to both. But if you want a basic summary, I'll give you this. Kobe worked harder, MJ worked smarter. Kobe never stopped. He questioned me about every aspect of our training. He needed to know how, why, and how everything worked. He didn't always want to be there before we got left, but he always did the work and he always came back for more. He was insanable for the game film. He watched the play over and over, process what happened, how he could make it happen better. He carried a DVD player everywhere and was before iPads. He could watch special videos made for him by the team. When that wasn't enough, he brought my director of player development, Mike Procasis, to break down every film on every game and every opponent, studying and strategizing for every possible scenario. From 2 a.m. to 4 p.m., that was Kobe's focus. Unless he was in the gym putting up shots, if there was an open gym at 3 a.m. and he wanted to work on something, he'd be in that gym. I never slept during those years. I just napped because you never knew when he'd be ready to get back to work. We'd be on the court at 3 a.m. and by 4:30, I'd make him leave so he could get some rest. But I say because I knew he'd sneak back in 15 minutes and I'd have to make him leave all over again. All the things we worked on, the most challenging was simply getting him to stop. In athletic performance, everything is about go, 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 and up, and not enough time and attention paid to stop. When he needs you to occasionally stop, land, listen, see, smell, learn, and understand. If it's all you can do is go, and you eventually run right past winning and not even recognizing. MJ knew when to stop. He processed things so quickly that he didn't need to study as long and hard. He just knew he'd look at a film, but occasionally just to confirm that he had already replayed it in his mind. His head was like an infinite library of images and moments and plays. He recalled every action and reaction and knew how to prepare for whatever was ahead. You'll never find him on a court at 4 a.m. He slept at he slept at night because he knew sleep was part of his training. And as I mentioned earlier, he'd work out almost every day at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., depending on our schedule and time zone. Occasionally, he'd want to have a late night training session while we were on the road, just to make sure he got it in. One time, he wanted to go straight to the gym when we landed, and I had to borrow a t-shirt from him because I didn't have time to go to my room and change. 2 years later, he saw me wearing that t-shirt again and remembered that I never returned it. The man never forgot anything, as we saw in The Last Dance. He never questioned what we were doing or why we were doing it. He relied on his ability to feel what was working for him. I'd give him the program and he'd get it done. Usually we'd have to do it. Usually he'd have me do it with him. So we have someone to compete against. But his goal was to be efficient and effective at what was worth everything. About those 5, 6, and 7 a.m. workouts, our entire conversation after games would sometimes amount to me asking him what time, and Michael shooting back a number 5, 6, or 7. But I've never complained what we were switching it up. Winners need to be at their peak in their situation, regardless of the time zone or location or other variables for you. What might mean getting to a meeting in bad weather with flight cancellations or a last minute schedule change that forces you to get up earlier than usual, or something else that throws you out of your comfort zone. For my athletes, it's essentially that they perform at the highest level at any time of the day, in any time zone, if they're training at the same time. Their bodies get acquainted to one thing, which doesn't work at all if they're playing all over the country, and especially if they're playing coast to coast within a couple of days. So we always vary the time of our workouts so my athletes can prepare for anything. While MJ was all about efficiency, Kobe was all about more. If some was good, more was better. Michael knew when he had done enough so he could move to whatever was next. Over the years, I've thought a lot about what made each so special. No questions. Each had immeasurable traits that defined their greatness. Skill and talent, of course. Work ethics, in- intelligence, commitment, resilience. But above all, they had this in common. They each possessed an unshakable confidence in themselves that never wavered. They didn't have to know what was coming, but they were always ready. They knew when to take the shot and when to pass to someone else, when to talk and when to stay silent, when to speed up and when to slow down, when to respond to criticism and when to laugh it off. For Michael, it was believing that he'd get past the bad boy Detroit Pistons and get physical abuse they had heaped on him. To become the best who he ever played the game, ignoring the criticism and skepticism that he retired from NBA after 3 championships to explore a career in baseball. Ignoring more criticism and skepticism when he returned to the NBA almost 2 years later, when everyone said he could never be as good, and then winning 3 more championships, giving everything he had to the last dance. Bulls. Knowing his team was going to be dismantled at the end of the season, he never recruited superstars to play alongside with him, although the organization was always asking him to do so. At one point, the Bulls management asked him to be part of a conference call with Sam Bowie, who was a free agent at the time. Everyone made their pitch to Sam about why he should join the Bulls and how much the team wanted and needed him to in Chicago. Phil made his speech along with Jerry Krause and Scotty. And then it was MJ's turn. Sam, you coming or not? He said. We're winning with you or without you. His brief in my his brief in himself was so powerful he never doubted the outcome. Even after he retired, he was still finding ways to invest in himself and his abilities. He brought the Charlotte Hornets and became the first NBA player to be majority owner of a team. He remained an integral part of Nike's Jordan brand, which earned over $3 billion in 2020. He started and ran numerous new ventures and businesses. He competed on golf courses, including the private course he built for himself. He competed in fishing tournaments. He didn't have to do any of that. The man is already worth over $1 billion. But winning is addiction like none other. And once it shows that you have some unforgiveness, love, you crave that love forever. It was no different for Kobe. Everything he did was about the massive relief in himself, starting with his decision to skip college and go right to the NBA. He won 3 championships along Shaq and then spent the rest of his career proving to himself he could win without Shaq twice. He learned 5 languages, including Mandarin Chinese, because he knew the NBA was going to be huge in China, and Slovene so he could trash talk Luka Dominic from the sidelines. He'd speak to Laker teammates Paul Gasol in Spanish so none of the opposing players knew that they were going to do. He played through injuries that could have destroyed most players, rupturing his Achilles, but staying on the floor long enough to make two free throws, and then asking him if there was a way to just tape it up so he could keep going. And after his basketball career, when most players are trying to find ways to cling to their glory days, he went directly into the entertainment business, winning an Oscar for the short film Dear Basketball, which he narrated, executive produced, and also writing the best-selling children's books. And he shared his love of basketball with a new generation of players, investing his time and passion into coaching his daughter, Gianna, and other young girls to a standard of excellence most NBA teams couldn't match. I have no doubt he was preparing Gigi to be the first woman to play the NBA. That's how you bet on yourself. For both MJ and Kobe, it was all came down to the relentless belief in which they did. The same is true of the greats I worked with. Dwayne Wade, Charles Barkley, Tracy McGrady, Scottie Pippen, Hockey Olajuwon, and many more. Every decision, every move was rooted in confidence. In the early days of Michael's career, a reporter asked his coach, Doug Collins, about the strategy for coaching the greatest player in the game. It's pretty simple, said Collins. Give him the ball and he'll get the fuck out of his way. The greats don't need to be told what to do. They already know and always find a way to make the gamble pay off. Very few people are willing or able to or willing to bet on themselves. They become the assistant manager of their own lives, waiting for direction and approval from some higher authority because they don't feel confident enough to make the decisions and to take action on their own. Confidence is the ultimate drug, and winning is the dealer. It's the cure for doubt, insecurity, panic, and low self esteem. The antidote for all free fall you experience when you're losing control. The vaccine for fear and weakness, but there is no prescription for it, and no one can give it to you. Either you feel it deep in your gut and bring it out, or you don't. Whenever we talk about what's going deep inside, uh, uninstinct, I go back to the undisputable experts, babies, and little kids, what they're were born with and what they're taught. We all start out confident. Babies like the first steps fall down, get up, fall down, laugh, cry, get up, fall down, and they keep going. At one point, they do they say, I'm done with this, I'm sitting forever. They do what feels right and they don't care what you think about it. If you don't like what you fed them, they'll spit it out. When kids see a puppy, their first reaction is not to play with it. It's not until someone teaches them to not be careful that they learn hesitation and fear. Little kids sing and dance for no reason. They draw crazy scribble pictures and dress in whatever feels right to them. They've got one purple boot and one orange sneaker, fairly wings, and hard hat and 4 t-shirts. And they're singing happy birthday to everyone on the street. Until the adults get involved, you can't wear that. You can't look crazy, get in the house, change your clothes. It's nobody's birthday. Why are you singing? And no matter how confident those little kids are, eventually someone shames them out of it, or something happens to them. Believe that they are no good in some other way. Okay. Um, Very few kids have the ability to ignore that, and it stays with you. Every successful individual can tell you about the humility moments or moments they define their level of confidence and made them choose losing or winning. For MJ, it was about being cut from the high school basketball team Tom Brady was 199 pick in the NFL draft. Kobe had been famous air ball game as an 18-year-old rookie in 1997 playoffs when he shot an air ball at the end of the fourth quarter and then three more in overtime. Dwayne received only 3 college scholarship offers when he was in high school and was declared ineligible to play his freshman year at Marquette because of the academic issues. Charles Barkley, who weighed more than 300 pounds as a rookie, asked teammate Moses Malone why he wasn't getting more play time, and he was told was too fat, too lazy. Scottie Pippen began his freshman season at the University of Central Arkansas as a team equipment manager. None of this is safe from winning. Sixth sense of humor. Just ask the sales rep who falls one deal short of earning her bonus. The NFL kicker who misses the game-winning field goal. The pitcher who blows up the game 7, and the lawyer who loses a huge case on a technicality. If you're a winner, everything after that becomes a never-ending commitment to keep beating up on yourself. It's just a decision about what counts next. Where do I go from here? And am I this bad? Or am I so much better than this? And now I need you to prove it, not to everyone else, but to myself. For me, there were so many of those moments, I can't recall them all. As a child, I learned first grade at age 4. I'd arrived in the United States with my dad, and they took his word for it when he said I was already in first grade and was immediately put in the class for kids who couldn't keep up with the rest of the class. I couldn't keep out, I couldn't read out loud, and I couldn't spell. We'd have to get up in front of the class and the teachers who give us a simple word. Tim, please spell that word, ham. I thought for a minute, who cares how you spell ham? You eat it, you don't spell it. But okay, H-A-N. Hilarity all around the class, but I wasn't laughing, and it's still not funny to me. Although that story gets a great laugh when I tell it, those who stay with kids. Looking back, some of my greatest humiliations were in the classroom, which was so wrong since I always had good grades. My feeling there were no other options. My first year in college as kinesiology major, I talked my way into an advanced class without taking the prerequisite class that would have taught me what I need to know. The professor started the quarter by having everyone stand, and he'd ask questions of each student. If you couldn't answer that, if you'd remain standing for the entire class. I stood for 7.5 weeks, 3 times a week. Everyone else had answered his questions. They all they were all sitting. I stood there alone, sweating, embarrassed, and furious with myself until I realized I couldn't stand there and fail, or I could get the basic kinescopic book and learn what I was supposed to already know. To this day, I remember the moment I answered a question correctly. Ironically, it was during the 23rd class session, and the professor said, "Mr. Grover, you can sit down now." By then, of course, I'd already taught myself the entire course, and I wouldn't stop answering questions until finally the professor had said to me, "Mr. Grover, I don't need you to speak now." I finally arrived, so did my confidence. Confidence comes in many different ways, not just in how we see ourselves, but in how others see us. A few years ago, I was working with a group of CEOs and corporate leaders as part of a seminar on competitive excellence. Every individual in the room was successful, affluent, and highly respected among colleagues and peers. We were talking about the personal obstacles and issues they'd faced in their race to the top. Who here has been told that you are worthless? I asked. A few nervous hands went up. Stand up and stand again, I told him. Who was been told? You're wasting your time. A few more stood. This is going to fail. You're never going to make it. More and more standing. And finally, you're crazy. By now, everyone was standing. I'm standing here too, I said. That last part was a compliment. Everyone who has ever accomplished anything had has had the confidence to be a little crazy. We are talking about you here. Are you working towards things that look crazy to others and make perfect sense to you? Are you betting on your own belief in your ability and your vision, even when everyone else can't see it and wants you to stop? Don't stop. Excellent is lonely. No one will ever understand what you've done through to get where you are. Of course, you will have to come. You will have some reasons to believe you can achieve what you're going for. You're not going to be the first 50-year-old NBA rookie. You're not going to win the Masters if you've ever won your local neighborhood tournament. You're not going to become a billionaire by just looking at expensive things and wishing they were yours. Every day counts, especially for athletes who have specific skill sets, and tight expiration dates. The greats understand the reality of that. Confidence takes on special meaning when everything is on the line. It's no longer just about walking in a room like you own it or feeling good in that you're wearing what you're wearing or knowing all the answers if anyone asks. When you're competing for the prize, when it's all on your shoulders, confidence is all about knowing without a doubt that you will win. That was Tom Brady, who left the New England Patriots after winning 6 championships. He decided to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, insisted, and at the age of 45 delivered their first Super Bowl title in almost 20 years. Confident people are their own special breed of killers. You can't break them because they have already been broken over and over. That's how they become so confident at the first place, not from others telling them how good they are and throwing confetti and parade, but it's about being pushed down and kicked and laughed at, and by learning for themselves how strong and powerful they really are. By being in the worst possible situation and having the confidence to believe we're getting out of this mess. Just ask the 2016 Chicago Cubs, who carried the burden of 108 losing seasons into Game 7 of the World Series against the Cleveland Indians, with the game tied and momentum swings toward the Indians. A sudden storm swept in and forced the game into a 17-minute rain delay. Cubs outfielder Jason Hayward looked around at his teammates, saw them hanging their heads and preparing for the 109th season of defeat, and gave stern talk and, by all accounts, lifted up the team and saved the game. His confidence became theirs. That's leadership. Confidence is feeling as low as you ever felt in your life and knowing you'll recover stronger than you were before. It's hearing others tell you everything is fine, you're perfect, just the way you are, and knowing they're wrong and that you still have work to do. Consider the legendary Phil Heath, 7-time Mr. Olympic, fighting for his 8th title over 1 year after surgery kept him out of the competition. He could have walked away, he could have taken his medals, accolades, and pursued many other opportunities, but he just had the confidence to try again and prove to himself that he could do it, the work, and compete at the highest level, knowing the outcome was not guaranteed. Confidence people don't live in the past. They remember what happened, but they don't let it affect their abilities to move forward. They understand that losing is inevitable and they will recover as soon, quickly as possible to get rid of all the stink. I don't want to see an athlete slumped over hiding under his hoodie at a post game press conference if you blew it. If you sucked, if it hurt like hell, admit it, own it, and show confidence that it won't happen again when you're still in the middle of the race. There should be no difference on your demeanor until the race is done. When you've been knocked down, confidence gives you the patience to stay down for a minute until you know how to get up better than you were before. Most people jump right back up because they don't want to look weak and damaged, and they immediately get knocked down again. When you're confident in your ability to recover, you know you'll never be weak or damaged again. We're all flawed. Confident people don't hide their flaws, they laugh at them because they don't care what you think. Those flaw works for them. They don't have to work for it. Confidence lets you hear the voices around you and in your own head without responding or reacting. You can't you can hear them without listening to a single word. Confidence gives you the grit to stand for the shadow of those more powerful than you and still retain your power. Every one of my clients was wealthier and more famous than I, and I had the power to terminate our relationship at any time. But I never let that influence how I trained them and how I approached our relationship. I never forgot what was there to deliver results, and no one else could produce for them. That was my power, and I never gave it up. Confidence is the ticket to freedom and your escape route from everything that holding you back. Bad relationships, bad decisions, bad situations, and the people and issues that stand between you and what you want. Never let anyone take that from you. Even when they control the situations, they don't control you. Ultimately, confidence about taking chances and never doubting the outcome. You can't win if you can't gamble on yourself, and you can't gamble if you don't believe you can win. Winning requires you to set unrealistic goals and expect to achieve them. That doesn't mean chasing unattainable dreams. It means making smart, educated, and confident decisions about what you're capable of achieving. When you're making those decisions and enjoying the results, life is so short and it feels as if you'll never have enough time to enjoy your wins and create new ones. But when you're stuck in one place, scared to try something new, and feeling trapped in life you don't really want, every day is endless and the regret lasts forever. Take chances is about embracing the darkness of the unknown. It's about facing reality and fear and uncertain because whatever you're doing, you're you're going alone. Every hazy step will be uneven, unstable, uncompromised. But as you continue to take those steps, As you get closer to winning, you can see the light at the darkness in reality through the haze and until crazy gamble starts to look like a real possibility. Even when you're the only one who can see it. People will tell you visualize winning to get yourself to be a winner. That's not enough. Winning wants you to see, smell, hear, touch, taste, and use your sixth senses and seventh senses as well. The ones only you know about. This is your risk to take, no one else. If you need to be motivated to take the leap, if you keep a list of 20 ways to stay positive, if you're surrounded by people who keep telling you to slow down and roll those every time you walk about your plans, you won't get there. Most people have so many dreams and ideas and abilities that they hold to unsure and inability to take a chance on themselves until it's too late and they die, leaving everything unused and untried. These aren't random gambles or reckless guesses. They're disciplined choices about things that matter to you. They're decisions you have to make if you're going to experience your life, not just live it. And you're worth that risk. If you think that cost is too high, wait until you get to the bill for this doing nothing. Every day you gamble on countless things: what you eat, what you drive, how you speak to people whom you trust. Everything has risk. Everything has consequences. You don't always know the outcome, but winning does, and it's waiting for you to find out. Okay, that was a pretty long chapter, so that's done.